In this video, we'll use StatCrunch to find measures of central tendency, variation, percentile, position percentile. So I've got a data set here with age, gender, and it's coded as 1 is male and 0 is female. And then I've got the BMIs for the subjects, and then the sorted BMIs, which we'll use in a minute. So let's go ahead and do the summary statistics. And let's go ahead and we'll do mean, median, and mode, which we can get from the summary statistics. And we can also get, let's go ahead and go in and I can show you what we can get. So you've got lots of statistics to pick here. So it's always nice to pick n. And then let's do the mean, the median. The mode is all the way down the bottom. If you wanted to do the mid-range, you're going to have StatCrunch do the max and the min. It doesn't calculate the mid-range directly. You're going to have to calculate that yourself. So let's do these for right now, and then we'll come back and do measures of variation. All right, so here's our summary statistics for the age data. So we see there's 300 observations in the data set. The mean age is 47.04 years. The median is 46. Interesting, the mode is 80. The max is 80, and the min is 18. So if you remember, measures of central tendency, to find the mid-range, what do? You take the min plus the max and divide by 2. So in this case, I'm going to take 80 plus 18 and divide by 2, and I'm going to get 49 for that. So if you wanted to do the mid-range, you'll have to do that calculation by hand. Now the measures of variation, generally we work with, let's go back up here, keep the n, standard deviation. So here's your standard deviation here. And to pick multiple measures here, you do a control or a shift and then click with your mouse. Let's pick the variance, and let's also pick the range, which is right here. And then later on, in a second, we're going to learn about the quartiles and IQR. So you could also pick IQR here at the same time. So these are nice measures of variation. So you've got a standard deviation about 18.3. Here's your variance, here's your range, and here's your IQR. Now, measures of position. So that's where we talk about percentiles. So let's say, for instance, well, quartiles, for instance. You can calculate quartiles. Remember, quartile 1, 25% of the data is less than quartile 1. Quartile 2 is the median. 50% of the data is less than the quartile 2 or the median. And again, you can have your summary stats do those calculations for you. So if you go back here and pick the age again, under the statistics, we've got down here, you've got Q1. We did the median before, but we'll do it again, the median. And then down here is Q3. And compute. So there's your quartile 1 is 31, your median is 46, and quartile 3 is 62. Now, some technologies calculate quartiles a little differently, but this is the StatCrunch calculations. Finally, if you wanted to do percentiles other than the quartiles, let's go ahead and calculate on the BMI data some unusual quartiles. So again, go back to summary stats on the columns, pick the data column, and then under statistics, you really don't even need to pick anything, because what you're going to do when you want to find the data value that corresponds to a certain percentile, for instance, let's say we wanted to calculate the 87th percentile for the age data. So we put 87 in here. You can calculate more than one, separating them by commas, and then just compute. And so the 87th percentile is 69. So 87% of the data is less than 69 years. Now let's turn it around and say we want to know the percentile for a particular age. So let's say for the age of 20, what percentile does that correspond to? So to calculate that, you actually just use a calculator. So you say, how many data values are less than 20? And we see there's 15. So on my calculator, I'm going to take 15 and I'm going to divide by the total number of data values in my data set, which was 300, and then multiply that by 100, and I see that that's at the 5th percentile. The last thing in this section that kind of goes along with all of this would be to create the 5-number summary and then the box plot. So again, let's go back to summary stats on the columns. And again, you can have your statistics calculate those for the 5-number summary, which is used to create the box plot. And the first thing you want to do is, I always like to pick the sample size, but we all start, 5-number summary starts with the minimum, which is right here. And then you have Q1, and then you have the median, and then you have Q3, and then you have the maximum. So there's your 5-number summary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, compute. So there's your 5-number summary for the BMI data. So the minimum is 18, Q1 is 31, median is 46, we did these before, and the maximum is 80. All right, so let's do box plots now. So they go along with the 5-number summary and the summary statistics. So to do those, you're going to go to graph, and you're going to go to box plot, and you're going to pick the variable, and you're going to use, I like to use the fences to identify outliers. Remember, the fences created, it's 1.5 times the IQR, and that's extended from Q1, subtracted from Q1 or added to Q3 in order to identify outliers. And I'm going to do these horizontally just for a minute. So let's do all the data together, and then we're going to break it down by males and females. Okay, so here's the box plot of all the data. And if you put your mouse over it, it'll show you the information here. It tells you the IQR, it tells you the lower limit, it tells you the data that we just did in the 5-number summary when we use the summary stats option. Let's go in and change this, and let's go ahead and group it by the gender variable. So now we're going to have a box plot for males and one for females. And the male is going to be on top, and the female is going to be on the bottom. Now there's another option in here, which is to use those fences to identify the outliers, which I did check off. And we group by gender, okay. Yep, okay, so we don't have any outliers. I thought we did have outliers, but we don't. So we do that on age. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to do it on, let's do it on the BMI. That's more interesting. That's why we're not seeing outliers. Let's do it, there we go. Now we've got some outliers. So when we look at the BMI by male and female, so here's the males up here, and we notice we have, and again, if you highlight this in StatCrunch, it will highlight the rows that have those observations in it. And of course, we're going to look at the bottom because I've got this sorted already. Go all the way down to the bottom of the data set. Obviously, in the sorted column, that's where your extreme BMI values are going to be down at the bottom. So if we scroll all the way down in the data set, they'll be highlighted down here. So there we go. So those were the males here. So there's are the males, and then here's the females. If I click on row, it'll unhighlight those. And then here's the females that are identified as outliers right here, and they're at the very bottom of the data set. They have the highest BMIs.